Welcome back to our channel. Today we're diving into a powerful story that takes us from the heights of celebration to the depths of personal struggle, showcasing a journey of resilience and justice. And we begin with Maya Johnson, a judge who has just wrapped up a day of triumph in her courtroom. Relaxing in a restaurant, she takes a moment to savor her well-deserved success. But her evening takes a sudden and shocking turn when Officer Jake Thompson accuses her of a crime she didn't commit. What unfolds next is a gripping confrontation that challenges Maya's dignity and the very principles of justice she stands for. As tensions rise and the stakes grow higher, Maya's resolve is put to the test, leading her to a pivotal decision that could change everything. This story isn't just about one woman's fight against injustice, it's about confronting systemic issues and standing up for what is right. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. Maya Johnson sat alone at a small, intimate table nestled in the corner of the bustling restaurant, a glass of rich merlot cradled delicately in her hand. The soft, warm glow of the overhead lights cast a gentle radiance on her face, highlighting the sense of accomplishment and satisfaction she felt after a demanding day presiding over numerous cases in her courtroom. The restaurant was alive with the mingling aromas of garlic and herbs, creating an inviting and aromatic backdrop that blended harmoniously with the symphony of laughter and animated chatter from diners savoring their evening meals. In this cozy nook, Maya took a moment to appreciate the serene atmosphere that contrasted sharply with the relentless, frenetic energy of her workday. She relished the tranquility that surrounded her, a soothing balm after the intense courtroom drama she had navigated. "Just one more glass to celebrate," she murmured to herself, raising her glass in a quiet, solitary toast to her accomplishments and the hard-fought victories of the day. Her thoughts meandered to the cases she had diligently resolved, reflecting on the profound impact she had made on the lives of those who came before her. She felt a deep sense of pride in her role, taking solace in her contribution to upholding justice and serving her community. As she savored a sip of the velvety wine, the door to the restaurant burst open with a forceful swing, abruptly cutting through the restaurant's melodic hum. Officer Jake Thompson entered, his uniform impeccably crisp, but his demeanor was unmistakably tense. His sharp, penetrating gaze swept across the room with meticulous scrutiny, finally settling on Maya. The atmosphere shifted, the air thick with an unspoken tension as the two locked eyes, each feeling the weight of the moment. Maya's heart sank as she felt the heavy weight of his scrutiny. Every detail of his stance, the rigid way he stood, and the intense focus of his gaze made her deeply uneasy. The air around them seemed to thicken, and an uncomfortable silence enveloped the space. Trying to pierce through the tension, she called out, "Can I help you?" Officer, her voice carried a note of strained politeness, attempting to break the oppressive quiet that had settled over the scene. As she spoke, the other diners in the restaurant started to take notice of the unfolding situation. Conversations gradually faded into hushed whispers, and curious eyes turned in their direction. The atmosphere shifted, with a palpable sense of anticipation hanging in the air. Jake approached her table with purposeful strides, his expression a stark blend of determination and suspicion. His demeanor was unyielding as he addressed her with a firm, authoritative tone. "I need to ask you some questions," he stated bluntly. "You were seen leaving a known drug area earlier today. I need to see some identification." Maya's pulse quickened in response to the abrupt demand. "Excuse me, I'm a judge," she said, trying to keep her voice steady despite the rising tide of anxiety threatening to overwhelm her. She reached for her wallet with trembling hands, retrieving her badge. The emblem on the badge caught the light, gleaming under the restaurant's soft illumination. "This should clarify who I am," she added, her tone a mix of frustration and desperation. However, Jake's gaze remained steely and unrelenting. His eyes narrowed, and his posture seemed to grow even more rigid. "I don't care what you say," he retorted, his voice dripping with condescension. Just because you wear a robe doesn't mean you're above the law. His dismissive tone was met with murmurs of surprise and growing concern from the patrons, whose whispers grew louder as they observed the escalating confrontation. The scene in the restaurant had now become a focal point of collective attention, and the discomfort among the diners was palpable. "Is this necessary?" Maya asked, her voice quivering slightly as she tried to maintain her composure. Her heart pounded fiercely in her chest, each beat echoing her rising anxiety. She could feel the collective gaze of the room bearing down on her, the heavy weight of judgment and scrutiny pressing on her shoulders like an invisible shroud. Jake, his brow furrowed in determination, didn't seem to notice the growing discomfort. "Then why were you in that area?" he demanded, his tone growing sharper and more insistent, causing his voice to rise just enough to draw even more attention from the onlookers. "People like you are often involved in these kinds of activities. I'm simply doing my job, trying to keep things in order." Maya's eyes widened in disbelief as she processed Jake's insinuation. "People like me," she echoed, her voice a cocktail of indignation and frustration. The implication was clear, and it stung deeply. "You're making a sweeping assumption based solely on my race, and that is both unacceptable and deeply troubling." Jake's expression remained unchanged, his eyes cold and unyielding as he continued to interrogate her. "I'm just asking questions, Ma'am. If you have nothing to hide, then you shouldn't be worried." The words hit Maya like a punch to the gut, and she felt a surge of humiliation wash over her. Her cheeks burned with a deep flush as she realized that everyone in the room was now paying close attention to the escalating confrontation. She could see the judgment in the eyes of the other diners, their glances flickering nervously between her and Jake, their expressions reflecting a mix of curiosity and discomfort. "Look," Maya said, her voice rising with a mixture of desperation and anger, "I understand that you must perform, but this is a gross overreach. You're not just questioning me, you're humiliating me in front of everyone here." Jake's response was sharp and dismissive. "I'm not embarrassing you. You're embarrassing yourself," he retorted, his tone dripping with disdain. "If you're innocent, then prove it. Show me your ID." The tension in the room became almost palpable, thickening with each passing moment. Maya's gaze swept across the faces around her, noticing the varying reactions. Some showed empathy, while others looked away, clearly uncomfortable. She could feel the walls metaphorically closing in around her, her sense of dignity feeling increasingly compromised with every second that ticked by. "This isn't just about me," Maya said, her voice rising with a fervor she could no longer contain. "This is about the broader systemic issues that allow for this kind of discriminatory treatment based solely on one's appearance. We're dealing with deeply ingrained prejudices that need to be addressed, not just in this moment, but as part of a larger conversation about equality and justice." "Spare me the lecture," Jake snapped, his arms folded across his chest in a defiant stance. His tone was dismissive and brimming with contempt. "You can't just play the race card here and expect me to take it seriously." Maya's heart raced as she processed his words, feeling a surge of anger and frustration. She sensed the gravity of the situation, understanding that this confrontation was about more than just her. The implications of this moment could have far-reaching consequences. Taking a deep breath to steady herself, Maya squared her shoulders and met Jake's gaze with unwavering determination. "I insist on speaking to your supervisor," she demanded, her voice steady and firm. Her refusal to back down was a declaration of her resolve to address the injustice she felt. Jake hesitated for a fraction of a second, the veneer of his bravado momentarily cracking. However, he quickly dismissed her request with a wave of his hand. "This is a waste of my time," he said, his dismissal punctuated with a hint of irritation. The tension between them remained palpable, and Maya could sense that Jake's unwillingness to engage was not just about this particular instance, but perhaps a reflection of a larger, systemic issue. If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, Please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. As the standoff dragged on, Maya felt the eyes of the restaurant's patrons fixed on her, their silent witness to the unfolding drama. The weight of their scrutiny, combined with the urgent need for justice, fueled her determination. In that critical moment, Maya vowed not to let this situation pass without challenge. She recognized that this was not merely a personal affront, but an opportunity to confront a deeper problem that needed addressing. Maya stepped out of the restaurant, the crisp night air hitting her like a splash of cold water, a stark contrast to the heated encounter she had just endured. She inhaled deeply, trying to calm the storm of emotions swirling inside her. As she walked down the dimly lit street, the harsh reality of her interaction with Officer Jake Thompson replayed in her mind. The sting of his accusation lingered, weighing heavily on her chest, but she refused to let it extinguish her resolve. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, jolting her from her thoughts. It was Lisa calling. "Hey Maya, are you okay?" Lisa's voice was filled with genuine concern. Maya hesitated for a moment, the vulnerability of the situation creeping into her voice. I'm fine," she said, though her words trembled slightly. She could still vividly recall the way Jake had pointed at her, his authoritative voice echoing in the restaurant. "No, actually, I'm not fine. You won't believe what just happened." "What happened?" Lisa asked, her voice shifting from concern to a more probing curiosity. Maya found a nearby bench, her movements slightly unsteady as she sank onto it. Her fingers trembled faintly as she began to recount the distressing encounter. "I was enjoying a quiet dinner, just savoring a rare moment of peace, when out of nowhere, he walked in and accused me of being a criminal. Can you believe it? He didn't even give me a chance to explain who I was or what I was doing there." Lisa's eyes widened in disbelief. "Are you serious? That's outrageous. Did you try to tell him you're a judge?" "I did," Maya said, her frustration evident as her voice edged with exasperation. "I tried to explain, but he just kept talking over me, acting like my words meant nothing. It felt like he saw my race and jumped to conclusions without a second thought. I felt utterly powerless." Lisa took a moment to absorb the full weight of what Maya had shared. Her expression grew serious. "Maya, you need to file a formal complaint. This isn't just about what happened to you personally, it's about holding him accountable for his actions. If we don't challenge this kind of behavior, it will just continue unchecked." Maya leaned back against the cold metal of the bench, her gaze drifting upward to the stars that flickered dimly through the haze of city lights. "I know you're right," she said quietly, her voice gaining strength despite her weariness. "But it feels so exhausting. Do I want to put myself through that process? What if they don't take me seriously?" "They have to take you seriously," Lisa replied with unwavering determination. "You're a respected judge, and you have a responsibility to stand up for what's right, not just for yourself, but for anyone who's been subjected to this kind of injustice. If you don't take action, who will?" Maya shut her eyes, immersing herself in the memory of those who had come before her, brave individuals who had challenged systemic racism and fought against deep-seated injustice. She felt a surge of resolve start to kindle inside her. "You're right," she said, her voice steady. "This could be a pivotal moment. Perhaps it's time to bring these issues to light, particularly within our community." "Absolutely," Lisa replied, her voice brimming with encouragement. "And think of how many people might find strength and hope in your actions. You have the potential to be a voice for those who feel unheard and powerless." As Maya's emotions began to shift from turmoil to a newfound sense of purpose, she resolved, "Okay, I'll do it. I'll file the complaint." Her voice was firm and determined. "But I want to make sure I have solid evidence." Lisa nodded in agreement. "First, let's try to locate any witnesses who were present in the restaurant during the incident." "That's a great starting point. Let's begin reaching out to them." Her enthusiasm was palpable and contagious. You've got this, Maya. You're resilient, and you have the law on your side. Maya rose from the bench, feeling the cool breeze reinvigorate her spirit. She took a deep breath, grounding herself with renewed determination. Thank you, Lisa. This conversation has been exactly what I needed. I won't let this incident define me. Instead, I'll channel it into driving the change I want to see. As their conversation continued, Maya felt a surge of hope and clarity. The path ahead was undoubtedly fraught with challenges, but she was prepared to confront them with unwavering resolve. What had initially been a painful experience now ignited a flame within her that she hadn't realized was burning so fiercely. She recognized that she was no longer just a victim, she was emerging as a judge, a leader, and a force for transformative change. The morning sun poured through the tall, narrow windows of the police station, casting elongated, angular shadows across the scuffed linoleum floor. As Maya Johnson crossed the threshold, her heart raced with a heady blend of resolve and apprehension. The memory of yesterday's events replayed incessantly in her mind, each iteration sharpening the sting of the humiliation she had endured. Yet today she was prepared to confront the system that had so grievously wronged her. Dressed in a sharply tailored navy blazer that exuded both authority and self-assurance, Maya walked purposefully toward the front desk. The officer stationed there was casually scrolling through his phone, barely acknowledging her presence. She cleared her throat softly, but the officer's nonchalant demeanor remained unchanged. "Excuse me," Maya said, her voice unwavering despite the nervous flutter in her stomach. "I need to file a formal complaint against Officer Jake Thompson." The officer's gaze reluctantly shifted from his screen to her, a flicker of mild curiosity replacing his initial indifference. "You mean the officer involved in that incident at the restaurant yesterday? What seems to be the issue?" His tone was dismissive, as though he had already mentally prepared to downplay her concerns. Maya inhaled deeply, grounding herself with each breath. "I was wrongfully accused of criminal activity. Officer Thompson failed to properly identify himself and escalated the situation without cause. I am here to ensure that this behavior is properly addressed and that such incidents do not go unchecked." The officer's skepticism was palpable as he raised an eyebrow, his expression a mixture of doubt and irritation. "Are you sure you want to push this? It seems like it might just be a misunderstanding. I mean, the officer was only trying to do his job, right?" Maya's frustration was reaching a boiling point, but she made a conscious effort to keep her emotions in check. "No, this wasn't a mere misunderstanding," she said, her voice steady but firm. "It was an outright abuse of power. As a judge, I am entitled to be treated with the respect my position demands. This issue extends beyond my grievances. It's about ensuring that officers are held accountable for their behavior and actions." As she spoke, she noticed the officer and his colleague, who had just joined him in the lobby, exchanging a knowing glance and a barely concealed smirk. Maya felt her cheeks flush with a mixture of anger and embarrassment, but she was determined not to let their mockery undermine her resolve. "I would like to speak with a superior, please," she insisted, her tone leaving no room for argument. After a tense few minutes of waiting, she was escorted to a modest office where Lieutenant Ramirez was seated behind a desk, buried in paperwork. As he looked up, his initially casual demeanor shifted to one of professional attentiveness. "Judge Johnson," he said, rising from his chair and extending a hand in greeting. "I've been briefed about the incident. Please have a seat." Maya sat down, feeling a sense of cautious relief as she faced someone in a higher position of authority. "Thank you, Lieutenant," she said. "I'm here to file a formal complaint against Officer Thompson regarding his conduct yesterday." Ramirez's expression grew more serious, his attention fully focused on her. "I can imagine this must have been a very upsetting experience for you," he said. "Please tell me exactly what happened." Maya began recounting the incident in detail, her voice gaining strength as she described the utter humiliation she had felt in front of the restaurant patrons. She detailed the disbelief and shock she had experienced when Officer Thompson accused her of criminal behavior, his harsh words reverberating in her mind like an unsettling echo. As she spoke, she noticed Ramirez diligently taking notes, his brow furrowed in concentration as he listened intently to her account. "I'm truly sorry you had to experience that, Judge," he said, his tone earnest and sincere. "Our mission is to serve and protect everyone in our community, and it's evident that this situation fell woefully short of that standard." Maya felt a small spark of hope ignite in his response. "I want to make sure this is taken seriously," she said firmly. "It's not just about what happened to me, it's about stopping this from happening to anyone else." After a detailed discussion, Ramirez advised Maya to gather evidence, including the contact details of any witnesses who might have seen the incident. "The more information we can collect, the more effectively we can address this issue," he said encouragingly. As Maya left the police station, she felt a renewed sense of empowerment. She had taken the crucial first step in what promised to be a long journey toward justice, and she was resolved to see it through. The sun seemed to shine brighter now, almost as if celebrating her newfound resolve. Pulling out her phone, Maya called Lisa, her best friend. "You won't believe it. I just spoke with the lieutenant, and he seems to take this seriously. Now I need to track down witnesses." "That's fantastic, Maya." "You're doing the right thing," Lisa responded with enthusiasm. "Do you remember anyone from the restaurant who might be able to support your story?" A couple was sitting at the table next to mine, Maya recalled. They looked visibly shocked by the whole incident. "I'll try to get in touch with them." "That's a great idea," Lisa said, her voice steady with support. "And remember, you're not alone in this. You've got a lot of people behind you." Maya smiled, feeling comforted by her friend's encouragement. "Thanks, Lisa. I'll keep you updated. I'm ready to tackle this with renewed determination." Maya Johnson approached the Internal Affairs Division of the police department with a resolve that felt almost tangible, like an electric current propelling her forward. Clutched tightly in her hands was a folder brimming with crucial evidence, witness statements, security footage, and her own meticulously detailed account of the distressing incident at the restaurant. The walls of the office, stark and sterile, seemed to close in on her, while the fluorescent lights overhead flickered incessantly, underscoring the seriousness of her mission. If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, please comment number 2 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. As she walked in, the office's atmosphere was heavy with a sense of duty and dispassionate professionalism. A voice cut through the sterile hum of the fluorescent lights, calling her attention to a desk cluttered with stacks of paperwork. Sergeant Amanda Reyes, known for her unwavering determination and no-nonsense approach to investigations, looked up from behind the chaos of her desk. With a sharp nod, she gestured for Maya to take a seat. "Judge Johnson," Reyes said, her tone brisk and authoritative. "I've seen your initial report. What can I do for you today?" Maya took a deep breath, her composure masking the storm of emotions swirling inside her. "Thank you for meeting with me, Sergeant. I'm here to formally complain to Officer Jake Thompson." Reyes's gaze hardened, her expression reflecting the seriousness of the situation. "I've reviewed your report. This goes beyond a simple misunderstanding, doesn't it?" Maya's heart raced as she shook her head, her resolve unwavering. "No, Sergeant. This is about much more than that. This is about holding individuals accountable for their actions and addressing the systemic issues within our policing system. It's about ensuring that officers like Thompson cannot act on prejudice or make decisions based on race rather than facts. This is a critical moment for accountability and reform." Reyes's eyes narrowed as she absorbed Maya's words. The gravity of the situation was not lost on her, and she leaned forward, her attention fully engaged. The sergeant leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms with an air of authority. "All right, let's review what you have for us." Maya opened the folder with a deliberate motion, spreading out the evidence on the table before Reyes. Her hands trembled slightly, betraying the nervousness she felt, but there was a spark of resolve in her eyes. This was her moment, the opportunity to be heard, to make a tangible impact. She took a deep breath and began recounting the details, each word carrying the weight of her experience and the hope for justice. Across town, Jake Thompson was seated in the precinct's break room, his hands cradling a lukewarm cup of coffee. The room was filled with the soft hum of conversation from his colleagues, but Jake felt a profound sense of isolation. It was as if an invisible barrier had formed around him, amplifying the whispers of doubt and criticism that punctuated the air. "Can you believe he dared to accuse a judge?" one officer remarked, his voice tinged with disbelief. "That was incredibly reckless." Jake's jaw tightened at the comment. He tried to dismiss their words with a shrug, but inside he felt the crushing weight of their scrutiny. "I was just doing my job," he muttered under his breath, his voice lacking conviction. The incident played on a relentless loop in his mind, a haunting reminder of his failings. He had let his personal biases influence his actions, and now he was grappling with the consequences. The criticism stung, but the deeper hurt was the gnawing realization of his missteps. Back in the Internal Affairs Division, Reyes was intently taking notes, her brow furrowed in concentration as she reviewed the evidence. She gestured towards the screen. "This footage indicates that you were treated unfairly," she said, pointing out the relevant sections. "However, to move forward with action against Thompson, we need more than just this. We require corroborating testimony to strengthen our case." Maya nodded, her determination visible as she anticipated the next steps. "I have several witnesses who were present at the scene. I can contact them and gather their statements." "Excellent," Reyes responded, nodding approvingly. "Additionally, I'll need a detailed written statement from you that outlines everything that occurred. The more comprehensive your account, the stronger our case will be." "Absolutely," Maya affirmed, her voice steady and resolute. "I won't let this issue fade away. Too many people are afraid to speak out, and it's time for that to change. I'm committed to seeing this through." Later that evening, she made her way to a community meeting held at the local church, a modest but welcoming building that had long been a cornerstone of the neighborhood. As she entered, she was greeted by a palpable buzz of energy that filled the room. The congregation of familiar faces was engaged in animated discussions, their voices overlapping as they debated critical issues such as school funding, police reform, and other pressing community matters. Maya took a moment to steady herself, her heart pounding with a mix of nervousness and anticipation. This meeting was more than just another gathering. It was her opportunity to share her story and galvanize others into action. When she finally stepped up to the podium, the room's chatter gradually hushed into a reverent silence. Maya cleared her throat and began, "Thank you all for coming tonight. I appreciate each one of you taking the time to be here. I want to speak about an experience I recently endured, an encounter with local law enforcement that has deeply affected me and left me shaken to my core." The audience listened with rapt attention as Maya recounted her harrowing experience with Officer Jake Thompson. Her voice, though steady, carried the weight of her pain and resolve. "I was subjected to public humiliation and treated as a criminal, simply because of the color of my skin. This was not an isolated incident, it's a reality that many of us face. We must confront and address this injustice together." A ripple of agreement swept through the room. Maya noticed nods of empathy and understanding from her neighbors, their faces reflecting shared anguish and recognition. One woman, her eyes glistening with tears, rose to speak. "I endured a similar ordeal when I was stopped without cause last year." The shared sense of injustice resonated deeply with Maya. She felt a powerful surge of solidarity, a collective strength that could be harnessed to demand accountability and drive meaningful change. The energy in the room began to shift. Maya's words had transformed her from a mere speaker into a beacon of hope, sparking a renewed sense of purpose and empowerment among those present. By the end of the meeting, the atmosphere was charged with a newfound unity. Attendees exchanged contact information, made commitments to support one another, and resolved to stand together in the face of adversity. That night, as Maya nestled into her bed, a profound sense of serenity began to settle over her. It was as if a weight had been lifted. She was no longer solely fighting for her rights and sense of justice, but for the broader community that had suffered alongside her. Every step she took in this battle wasn't just about reclaiming her dignity, it was about inspiring others to stand up and do the same. Standing before the large glass windows of her office, Maya gazed out at the bustling cityscape below. The city's ceaseless energy was a stark contrast to the solitude she felt within her thoughts. The investigation into Officer Jake Thompson's conduct had evolved into a high-profile case with momentum of its own. As the days passed, the media frenzy surrounding her case grew louder and more invasive. News outlets churned out headlines about racial profiling, police misconduct, and systemic failures, sparking intense and often polarized debates throughout the community. If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, please comment number 3 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. Maya's reflection in the glass seemed to blend with the city lights as she contemplated the gravity of her situation. The air felt heavy with the weight of her responsibilities and the uncertain path ahead. Turning her attention back to her desk, her phone buzzed insistently, jolting her from her contemplation. It was a message from Lisa, her friend and ally, in the fight. You're on the news again. They're talking about the rally this weekend. You should think about speaking. A mixture of anxiety and resolve surged within Maya. The rally represented a crucial opportunity for her to publicly share her story and advocate for change, but the thought of addressing a large, expectant crowd churned her stomach with nerves. After a brief pause to collect her thoughts, she typed a quick response, "I'll think about it." Later that afternoon, Maya received a call from the Internal Affairs Division requesting an urgent meeting to discuss the evidence she had been compiling against Officer Thompson. Her heart raced at the prospect of finally having her day in court. With renewed determination, she gathered her materials, a meticulously organized folder filled with witness statements, recordings, and documents supporting her claims. Each piece of evidence represented countless hours of work and personal sacrifice. Arriving at the precinct, the stark, fluorescent lights seemed to intensify the gravity of the situation. The cold, sterile atmosphere of the building only heightened her sense of anticipation and anxiety. Detective Harris, a seasoned officer known for his no-nonsense approach, greeted her in the meeting room. His stern face and impassive demeanor contrasted sharply with the urgency of her mission. "Thank you for coming," Judge Johnson Harris said, his voice professional and clipped, lacking the warmth or empathy one might expect. "We appreciate your cooperation in this matter." Maya nodded, feeling the full weight of the moment pressing down on her. She took a deep breath, her resolve hardening as she prepared to lay out the evidence that she hoped would bring about meaningful change. "Thank you for taking this seriously," Maya said, her voice resolute yet tinged with the rawness of her emotions. She forced herself to hold Detective Harris's gaze, feeling the weight of the moment press heavily on her shoulders. "This isn't just about my personal experience, it's about accountability for what happened and ensuring that no one else has to endure the same kind of injustice. I hope that by confronting this head-on, we can pave the way for real change and prevent future abuses of power." As Maya laid out the extensive collection of evidence before Harris, she could sense the shift in his demeanor. The initial doubt in his eyes began to fade, replaced by a growing recognition of the gravity of her claims. Each witness statement she presented added another layer of corroboration to her story, painting a vivid and distressing picture of Officer Jake Thompson's aggressive and dismissive behavior. The evidence spoke of more than just a single incident. It revealed a troubling pattern of disregard for protocol and a concerning tendency to let personal biases override professional duties. "It's deeply troubling to see a pattern of behavior like this," Harris remarked, his voice a mix of concern and professional detachment as he scanned the notes he had taken. The weight of the situation seemed to settle on him. "We'll need to interview these witnesses thoroughly to uncover the full scope of what's been happening." "Good," Maya responded with unwavering determination. "It's imperative that we address this issue comprehensively. This isn't just about my case. It's about restoring faith in the system and ensuring that justice is served. The community deserves to know that their concerns are heard and acted upon, and that those entrusted with upholding the law are held accountable for their actions." As the days passed, the media frenzy surrounding Maya's case reached a fever pitch. Journalists and camera crews camped outside her office, their relentless presence a constant reminder of the public's intense interest in her struggle. During one particularly intense interview, a journalist asked, "Judge Johnson, how do you feel knowing that your experience has ignited such a powerful movement?" Maya took a deep breath, her heart heavy with the weight of her journey. "I feel a profound mix of gratitude and anxiety," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "It's both humbling and overwhelming to see my story resonate with so many people. But it's not just about me, it's about confronting the systemic racism and inequality that still exists in our society. It's about making sure that every person, regardless of their race or background, is treated with the respect and dignity they deserve." When the day of the rally arrived, the atmosphere was charged with an electrifying sense of purpose. Backstage, Maya could hear the voices of the crowd swelling into a powerful, collective cry for justice. The sound was a potent mix of anger, hope, and solidarity. As she stepped onto the stage, the sight of thousands of faces turned towards her was both exhilarating and daunting. The sea of people united in their call for change was a testament to the strength of their shared resolve. "Thank you all for being here today," Maya began, her voice resonating with a deep sense of commitment and emotion. "We are not just gathering to voice our grievances, but to stand together in solidarity. This moment is about more than just protest. It's about the power of collective action and the urgent need for accountability. We must unite to hold those in power accountable and to ensure that our voices drive meaningful, lasting change." The crowd's thunderous applause reverberated through the air, a powerful wave of support that bolstered Maya's resolve. Her heart raced as she prepared to dive deeper into her narrative, her words becoming a beacon of hope and justice. But then, from the periphery of the crowd, a familiar and unwelcome figure emerged: Officer Jake Thompson. He moved with a purposeful stride through the sea of people, his face a mask of unreadable emotions. As their eyes met, Maya's heart sank, a wave of anxiety and determination crashing over her. "Jake," Maya called out, her voice cutting through the din of the crowd with a sharp clarity. Instantly, the thrumming noise diminished, and the collective breath of the crowd held in anticipation. "I never wanted this confrontation, but your actions have consequences. You've been a part of a system that dehumanizes individuals based on the color of their skin. How can you possibly justify that?" Jake's face flushed, a complex mix of anger and shame flickering across his features. "I was just doing my job, Judge. I didn't mean to." "Didn't mean to," Maya's voice rose, each word infused with raw emotion and frustration. "Didn't mean to racially profile me? Didn't mean to humiliate me in front of your colleagues? Your biases didn't just strip me of my dignity, they've cost countless others their lives, their freedom, their hope." A murmur of shock and surprise rippled through the crowd, some gasping at Maya's fearless confrontation. Jake opened his mouth to respond, but his words faltered, unable to bridge the chasm of accountability she had laid bare. "This isn't just about you and me," Jake, Maya continued, her voice steady and unyielding. This is about the deep-seated systemic issues that plague our society. We all have a part to play in addressing these injustices and working towards real change. Maya stepped closer, her gaze unwavering and intense. I hope one day you come to understand the true weight of your actions and the impact they have on people's lives. With those final words, she turned back to the crowd, the collective energy surging around her like a powerful force. As Maya resumed her place before the sea of faces, her spirit was reignited by their renewed fervor. The rally continued, the atmosphere charged with an unyielding resolve. Each chant for justice echoed with the shared pain and collective hope of the community, their voices rising in a unified call for change. Maya led them with a renewed sense of purpose, each word a testament to the strength of their solidarity and the demand for a better, more just society. The day of the public hearing arrived with a palpable sense of anticipation that seemed to hang thickly in the air of the community center. Judge Maya Johnson stood before a packed room, her heart pounding in her chest as she prepared to deliver her testimony against Officer Jake Thompson. The walls were festooned with banners demanding justice, their vibrant colors a stark contrast to the gravity of the proceedings. The audience buzzed with a mixture of hope and apprehension, their faces a sea of silent determination. As Maya approached the witness stand, she could almost feel the weight of countless eyes bearing down on her, each one filled with a blend of expectation and curiosity. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves as she faced the assembly. Clearing her throat, her voice came out steady and firm, but it carried an undercurrent of resolve that cut through the tension. I stand here today not just for myself, but for every individual who has faced discrimination and injustice. My experience in that restaurant was not an isolated incident. It is a part of a larger pattern that demands our attention and action. The room fell into a deep silence, the gravity of her words sinking in. Maya continued with unwavering determination. As a judge, I have devoted my career to upholding the law and ensuring fairness. What transpired that night was a blatant disregard for these principles, an affront to everything I stand for. If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, please comment number 4 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. Across the room, Jake Thompson sat with his shoulders hunched and his face ashen. The pride he once felt in his badge now seemed to weigh heavily upon him, a symbol of the very corruption that had come to light. The internal affairs officers had made it clear that the investigation had revealed not just his misconduct, but a troubling undercurrent of corruption within the police department. As Maya spoke, the evidence laid bare the depth of the issue, exposing how Officer Thompson's actions were not just unprofessional but rooted in a deeply entrenched bias that he had failed to acknowledge. Maya's voice grew stronger as she pressed on, each word infused with the strength of her conviction. I have been part of this community long enough to know that I am not the first person to suffer due to such prejudices. We cannot allow this pattern of behavior to persist unchecked. A murmur of agreement rippled through the audience, the collective recognition of shared pain and hope creating a tangible sense of unity. People nodded, their faces reflecting the resonance of Maya's words with their own experiences. From the crowd, Marcus, a well-known local activist, stood up and raised his voice in a call for action. Thank you, Judge Johnson. We need more leaders like you who are willing to confront these systemic issues head-on. His words echoed through the room, amplifying the resolve of those gathered. The crowd erupted in applause, their support mingling with the urgency of the moment. Maya, bolstered by this wave of solidarity, continued her testimony with renewed vigor, her determination to effect change fueled by the collective strength of her community. Maya's smile at Marcus was both a gesture of gratitude and a reflection of the shared resolve in the room. Her voice, steady but imbued with deep emotion, continued to address the crowd. When I left that restaurant, I had a choice to remain silent and let the injustice fade into the background or to stand up and confront it. I chose to speak out because silence only perpetuates the cycle of injustice. We must raise our voices, demand accountability, and work tirelessly for meaningful change. As she spoke, the atmosphere in the hearing room shifted palpably. There was a sense of collective determination as the community rallied together, their support creating a powerful undercurrent of solidarity. Officers from the Internal Affairs Division, who had initially approached the case with a veneer of detachment, exchanged glances that revealed a growing respect. They were witnessing not just a testimony but a profound display of courage that challenged the very system they were a part of. When Maya concluded her testimony, Sergeant Linda Gray, a seasoned internal affairs officer known for her unflinching dedication, approached the microphone. The investigation has unveiled not only Officer Thompson's misconduct but a troubling network of corruption within our department. She announced, her voice resolute, "We will be pursuing charges against several officers implicated in this scandal, and we are committed to restoring trust within our community." The room erupted in applause, a wave of relief and hope sweeping through the audience as they absorbed the gravity of the promise of accountability. As the hearing neared its end, the chair of the Community Council rose to address the crowd. "We want to acknowledge Judge Maya Johnson for her extraordinary bravery and unwavering commitment to justice. It takes immense courage to stand up and challenge systemic wrongs, and we are honored to award her the Community Leadership Honor." Maya felt tears well up, her emotions a mix of pride and humility. Accepting the recognition, she spoke with a voice thick with feeling. "Thank you, but this recognition is not just about me," she said. "It represents all of us working together to make our community safer and more equitable for everyone." As the hearing concluded, Jake Thompson was escorted out, his future shrouded in uncertainty. The whispers of the crowd followed him, a blend of disdain and pity marking his departure. He had once believed that his badge would protect him from the repercussions of his actions, but the reality of his situation was catching up to him with stark clarity. In the days that followed, the impact of the hearing spread rapidly. News of Maya's bravery and the subsequent revelations became a beacon of hope and a catalyst for change. Her courage inspired many others to step forward with their own stories of injustice. The community began to mobilize, their voices coalescing into a powerful demand for a thorough investigation into the police department's practices and advocating for reforms designed to prevent future abuses of power. The momentum for change was building, driven by a collective resolve to create a more just and accountable system. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the powerful story of Maya Johnson and the systemic challenges she faced. As we reflect on the events and the lessons learned, we invite you to share your thoughts with us. What have you learned from Maya's experience and the steps she took toward justice? How do you plan to apply these lessons in your own life? We would love to hear your reflections and any actions you plan to take. Please comment below and let us know one key takeaway that resonates with you and how you will bring it into practice. If you enjoyed this video, please leave your comment below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more inspiring content. Together we can make a difference by learning, growing, and standing up for what's right. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to your thoughts and engagement.